Ladies and gentlemen, the US population is subconsciously walking its way towards population collapse. People are not currently having enough children to keep the population from falling long term. Now, this is going to lead to some really drastic long term problems. Now, fortunately, today it's not something we actually have to deal with too much because the population is strong, because in the past, fertility rates were much higher. However, lately, fertility rates have not been doing very good lately. In 2023 alone, we saw fertility rates in the United States just over 1.6 births per woman, where what we actually need is at least 2.1 to keep up with or maintain the current population. Now, today I've got an interesting article from the week. Why does the US fertility rate keep dropping? And they point out some really interesting reasons, some economic, financial reasons, or cultural reasons that have led families to having or couples to having fewer children. And unfortunately, I don't think it's intentional, but long term, this is going to lead to some really drastic and really bad things, I would say, kind of painting a grim future. But if there's fewer children being born today, that means less productivity, less economic output, and a weaker and weaker population to keep the human growth story moving along. Now, this is something that's really unprecedented. You go back over thousands of years. Yes, there's been hiccups in the human population, maybe it's plagues or whatever it might be. But now it looks like the human race is almost potentially not putting itself into an extinction mode, but definitely it's gonna put the writing's in the sand. When fertility rates across the world are dropping as they have been, you look at South Korea, China, Japan, and birth rates in general in these really huge countries. Like I said, the writing's in the sand. This is going to have some devastating impacts, and we might be living in an era today where there's more humans on Earth than there might ever be, at least for the next couple hundred years, it seems like. Now, I want to read part of this article, not all of it, but give some of my opinions on it regarding how it might be affecting us long term and things like that. Provisional data for 2023 by the CDC found that the total fertility rate in the US dropped to its lowest since the rate data began being tracked in 1979, almost 45 years ago, decreasing by 2% in 2023 compared to 2022. This has also marked the end of the pandemic baby boom. A confluence of factors are at play. American women are having fewer children later in life. Women are establishing fulfilling careers and have more access to contraception. I would agree with all those facts there. Teen birth rates reached a record low, while birth rates among older women decreased at smaller rates than those of younger women. The highest birth rate levels were seen among women between 30 and 34 years old. Now, this is actually just insane to think about. You go back in time 100, 200 years or whatever it is, you look at the average of what age women were actually having children, and it wasn't over the age of 30 to 34 years old. It was women between the ages of 15 to 25. And it really, that's just a drastic change. That's basically that's 34, the number 34 cut in half. Some really drastic cultural and economic changes have caused women to wait longer and longer to have children. Now, when a woman who's 34 years old has a child, it's very unlikely that she'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children in her life. She just doesn't have enough time to actually do that. Where if there's a 20-year-old female who does want to have children, she is actually more physically capable of having more than one child. At least it's much easier for her to do it because she's younger, and that's just what evolution has caused or given the capability of women to do. Now, what's really interesting here long term, what you have to think about is that this isn't something that's been intentional. Women didn't decide for this to happen. Men didn't want this to happen. This is, in my opinion at least, just a big unfortunate series of events and cultural and economic forces. I mean, you can blame all sorts of factors. Inflation, government spending, education reasons, workforce reasons. But I think it's a huge culmination of different factors. 100, 200 years ago, women were not in the workforce as they are today, working full-time jobs. Back then also, to buy a home, it didn't take 5 to 10x your income to buy a home. It took 1 to 3, 4x your annual income to actually being able to afford a home. So huge factors have changed, and it's really forced people to just wait to have kids longer and longer. Now, let's keep reading here. People are making rather reasoned decisions whether or not to have a child. Now, More often than not, I think that they're deciding is yes, I'd like to have children, but not yet. On a larger scale, the US population is expected to begin declining in 2080. The repercussions are still unknown, but could affect programs like Social Security. This shift has the ability to have a significant impact on the way we live for a long time to come. And I absolutely agree. This is really unprecedented, and we've never lived in a time where the population and where we really know that the population is pretty much guaranteed to fall over the long term in a drastic way. And way back then, or not too long ago, but the demographic pyramid used to have a lot of young people at the bottom of the pyramid and very few old people at the top of the pyramid. And over time, as birth rates have fallen more and more over time, that healthy demographic pyramid of a lot of young people in the workforce and few old people at the top has really turned into a rectangle of the same number of young people at the bottom and same number of old people at the top. And over time, it appears that the pyramid's going to become inverted, and we're going to have fewer young people on the bottom and more old people on the top, sucking up resources like Social Security, really just any government spending, taxpayer money, and it's going to be a huge burden on the younger generation, making it even more exponentially difficult long-term to have more children. So if we think that the problem's bad today, it looks like the problem or the difficulty of having children in the future looks to be like it's written in the sand again, like it's going to be harder and harder for even our future generations to have children, because it's like a forceful economic downturn spiral when it comes to creating an easy environment to have children. Once you go from a strong, healthy pyramid to an inverted pyramid of an unhealthy demographic population, it really just becomes a very difficult situation to U-turn out of, it appears. And it's really just interesting to think about. And you think about a long time ago, and how children back then were once seen more as assets, whereas today they're more so liabilities. Children today being born really have to wait until they're at least 20 to 25 years old. They have to go through school, they have to go through college, and during that time, in many circumstances, those children and those very young adults are not being productive in society. They're not working. They're busy in school. They're busy just learning to learn, and they're not actually entering the workforce until the age of 25, for example, which really backfires in terms of productivity. You compare that, or you contrast that with times just maybe 50, 100, 200 years ago, when having a child was seen more so as an asset, someone who would work on the farm, be part of the family, but also produce and be productive in society. So in that case, the having a child was seen as a productive resource, one that could actually output something for the family instead of just sucking up the resources of the parents as they are today. I mean, kids today, they're just iPad babies. Not because we want them to, just because society has formulated that situation to happen. And I don't know how you turn out of that. So much regulation and cultural stigma has created that. Children nowadays grow up in cities, they grow up in apartments or very small homes with little space. There's no farmland. All that they have to do is just go to school, and it's a very structured lifestyle, to say, without the need or the cultural push to be productive until later in adulthood around 20 to 25 years old. Whereas way back then, by the time a kid could walk or move or start talking, they were already doing something productive, whether it be working out in the fields or not. And despite that being a difficult lifestyle back then, it caused people to have more kids. Now, that's not something I'm saying that we should go back to. I'm just saying it was a different mindset back then. Back then, whether or not you wanted to have kids didn't matter. They were more so seen, at least subconsciously so, as an asset to have in the family. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today with you guys. Just kind of bring to your attention the problem that is going on here and what could really be festering long term for our society. I don't know. Obviously, we know the solution to all this is having more kids, but we can't just have kids without and it just being easy. It's not easy to do. It costs a lot of money. It's a huge decision. Someone who can't afford to have children can't just have 3, 4, 5, 10 kids all of a sudden and expect their own life to be easy. That would be a huge, that would have negative economic repercussions for an individual who decided to do that without any planning at all. But anyways, I just wanted to bring this all to your guys' attention, talk about it, just run my thoughts through it all. And yeah, well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and also leave your comments down below. I love to listen to them. And thank you all so much. Okay, guys, see you on the next video. Bye-bye.